Hi guys, today we're going to go over how to make your very own Kandi Mustache. These have become pretty popular and people love them, and they're pretty fun and you can do a lot of things with them. So let's get started. You are going to need pony beads, fishing line. I'm using a 15-pound test for this, but you can use any other kind of beading wire as well, and scissors. To begin, we'll start off with a length of 4 to 5 feet of fishing line. We'll be holding the two ends in one hand. We'll add one bead to one side of the string and another bead to the other side of the string for a total of 2 beads. We're going to now place those two ends together and put one bead on both ends of the string. And this will give you what looks like a pyramid shape. We're going to actually do 15 columns of these, which is going to make up the basis for the mustache. And this is what we call the skeleton. If you've got any trouble throughout this entire tutorial and you need a little bit more instruction, on my website I will have a beading diagram that's a step-by-step breakdown of everything in this. Continue adding on the beads until you finish the skeleton. After our 15 columns are in place, what we're going to do is tie a knot so it doesn't come undone. This can be done with either a square knot or a surgeon's knot, depending on what you feel more comfortable with. And we want to tie it tightly so it doesn't move too much, but not so much that it's rigid. The tighter you pull it, the harder it's going to be, and especially some people like to put these on necklaces so they could actually wear them on their face. So I wouldn't make it too tight, but you don't want it loose or floppy either. Once your knot is secure, we're going to string through one of the beads with one string. And this is so we can start our next row. That second string you can just place off to the side for now. We're not even going to worry about it at all. So we're going to add on a bead. We're going to string into the next bead that's sticking up, exactly like you would with any other kind of flat peyote stitch or with a cuff. And you just make sure you pull that into place. We're going to add on another bead. String into the other bead that is sticking up. Pull it into place and continue this all the way across the mustache. At the end of that row, we're going to have to go up to the next row. So we do this by stringing through that first bead we added onto this new row. So we go up. So you can see how we've skipped over and kind of made this diagonal going up. So now we're going to find the end of our string, add on a bead, string through the next bead, we're going to add on another bead and go all the way across. So now what we're going to do is take the string and string up through 2 to make a diagonal, and this is going to bring us up to that next level. So this is where it gets a little bit different. We're going to add on 2 beads, we're going to string down and then up, and then we're going to add on 2 more beads. And what we're doing with this motion of swinging down and then up through beads is we're creating that small center point of the mustache. It's a lot easier and simpler than it sounds. So what we're going to do is string down through this middle bead and then up through there so we can bring it back up to that level where we need to add on beads. And now we're going to continue to add on our beads. Once you finish that row, we're going to string up through 2 to go up to the last level. And this is where we're going to add on the final 2 beads and be done with this half of the mustache. So you add on your bead, string through the appropriate place, we pull it tight, and now we're doing that same U kind of motion, but we're stringing through more beads this time till we get to that empty space. Now we're adding on the final bead in this section. And what I like to do is string down through the beads till it gets to where that other secondary string that we had put aside. Now we're going to put down this side and pick up the other string. And just like we started with the first string, we have to string through the bead on the bottom. This side is going to be shorter, there are going to be less beads to add to it. So this is doing the same thing that we did previous. We're adding on 3 beads. We're skipping over the center again. So we're going up, down through 2 beads. And then we're going to add on 3 more beads till we get to the end. Once you've completed that row, we're going to string up through 1 so we can get to that next level. Pull it tightly, and this time we're adding on 2 beads, stringing down through that U shape again, and adding on 2 more beads. And this is going to be the last thing that we do on this section of the mustache. I leave a couple beads off on the bottom, and the reason for that is so it has a more realistic mustache look because it's kind of staggered on the bottom. And this way you can also tell the bottom from the top. Just like we did from the top, you're going to string all the way down through the diagonal till your 2 strings are on the same side. Then we're going to tie them in either a square knot or a surgeon's knot, depending on what you like to do with fishing line. I know some people like it to be more secure because sometimes it does have a problem with untangling. So just make sure that you tie those knots pretty firm. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our strings and go through a couple beads, and this is going to hide that knot, and it's going to protect the strings from unraveling. So once you've gone through 3 or 4 beads, sometimes zigzagging them helps too. It's really up to preference at this point. We're actually going to cut off the ends, and to do the curls of the mustache we're using an entirely different piece of fishing line. So you're going to want about good 6 to 12 inches for each side of the mustache out of your fishing line. We're going to take 2 ends, and we're going to actually put one end through each bead on the end of the mustache. So it's basically going to make a loop around these 2 beads where it's sticking out. And the reason I do this is because when you have that knot that you've tied together, it doesn't sit flat, which is why I like to use a new piece. So for the curl, we're going to add on 2 beads. We're going to let those fall down to the bottom, and we're going to add on 1 bead with both strings and let that slide on, just like the skeleton. So at this point, we're going to tie a square knot or surgeon's knot, depending on what you like. And this isn't going to keep that 1 bead from sliding, but it is going to secure this portion at least to the mustache base. So pick 1 string, and we're going to string into that top bead in the base of the pyramid. And we're essentially making kind of like a vertical peyote stitch to begin this off with. We're using the same kind of string, adding on a bead, and going through that bead that's sticking up right next to it. So we're basically zigzagging back and forth, adding on beads so it goes up vertically. At this point, we're going to add on another bead, and pull tightly. It's going to be a little frustrating, and this is the most difficult part of this whole mustache, but believe me, it's worth it. You'll be able to do it. So we're taking the second string now, and we're going to go through the second bead on the first column and the third bead on the second column. So both strings are coming out of the same place now. You're going to add on 1 bead to the first string, string through the third bead on the first column. So what you should have is 3 beads on the outside column, 4 beads on the inside column. You're going to take your second string, add on a bead, and then go through the 4th bead on the inside column and the third bead on the outside column. So both of your strings are coming out of the same place. And this is where you're going to have to kind of fiddle around with it and, you know, pull it till everything kind of matches up straight. Now if you'd like, you could tie a knot here, or you could string through a couple of beads and then tie a knot. It's really up to you. I like to tie my knots here. At this point, you can string through a couple of the beads to make sure that it's secure and the knot doesn't come apart, and then take your scissors and cut it off. And we're going to do the same exact thing to the right side as we did to the left side. And like I said, if you have any trouble at all, again, there is a diagram on my website. I know when I first did this tutorial, a lot of people had a big trouble with the mustache curl. I've tried to make it as simple as possible within a diagram. So please check that out. If you have any questions, please let me know, write a comment below. I will try to help you as much as possible. Congratulations, you did it! You made your first Kandi mustache. If you like, some people like to attach a necklace to it, just like this one. It's all up to you. I hope you guys found this tutorial was helpful. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. I put out new videos weekly. If you're looking for more, you can check out my latest video here, or a playlist for other intermediate level Kandi tutorials.